I don't know why I'm doing this before Master Roll 5, but here's some True King Yang Zings. Alright everybody, so I haven't touched Yang Zings in a while. I was actually going to bring the channel Metaphos Yang Zing again, but then the ban list came out and Electromite got punched in the dick. So everything has changed drastically. Obviously the ban list is crazy, you know, Colossus getting banned, just Engage getting banned. So much shit has changed. I know this is a little redundant with Master Roll 5 coming out, and we're going to make more profiles for our decks following that. It's getting me really excited for a lot of decks, especially decks that rely on Synchros and things like that. But I did bring back the True King variant a little bit. This is more of a casual version. We're still testing out a lot here, especially with anytime a ban list comes out, it's very overwhelming. But let's see what I've come up with so far. So for our monsters, we'll start with the Yang Zings. We still have our three Jiaotu. You know, Jiaotu is going to be your main combo starter. The main thing your opponent's going to want to Ash, and he can discard any two Yang Zing cards to summon two Yang Zings from the deck. One with 0 attack, one with 0 defense. He's your level 2 tuner. We have two Chi Wen, who's your level 1 tuner. He can recur from the graveyard if a Yang Zing's destroyed. But mind you that if they use their special effects, they can't use their other effects to summon another Yang Zing if destroyed in the same turn. So keep that in mind. Moving on to our other bodied Yang Zings, we have, of course, 3 Bian, 3 Bixie, and 3 Swanee. For those of you who don't really know or aren't familiar with Yang Zings, every Yang Zing summons a Yang Zing when it's destroyed, and then they all have effects that they give to a Synchro monster if they're used as the material. Swanee will give it 500 attack, Bixie will make it immune to traps, and Bian will make it so it can't be destroyed by battle. These guys come important because they're the attribute types you need for your True Kings, and you're going to want to do that. Because I still don't like the Win True King, if I'm being honest. I know it's good in hand when Diagram was still at 3, but right now we're kind of hurting for this, but I still decided to make the deck. I run 2 Zephyr Nui because he's a level 6, he's going to be really good to summon with your Jiaotu and go into an easy 8, or most likely your Baxia. Also, if he's destroyed on the field, because you're never going to Pendulum summon him in this variant, he will search you a card out, and sometimes that's nice to have. Next, we're going to have Tao Ti at 1. Tao Ti is level 5, so sometimes he's just there for the level, the different levels, and just an additional Yang Zing name. The effect he gives to a Synchro monster is that control of the monster can't change, which is nice with like mind control and stuff running around in today's meta, but you know, you just want to have him mainly for the namesake, and he's a 2200 beater. And then for the same reasons is Pulau, another level 1, another name, not a tuner, but he will make a Synchro monster immune to spells, so that could be pretty OP as well. So these two just for the names. Next we move on to our True Kings. We have 3 Agni Mazud, the Vanisher. He's going to be your fire one. If you pop 2 fire monsters to summon him, he will banish a monster on the field. And just remember, this is one of the rare occasions when the when whole if thing is a little bit misconstrued. If you remember, people did top with Yang Zing True King dinos. It does happen at all the same time when you pop your Yang Zings for your True King, so you still will get your summons and stuff and all that, so keep that in mind if people try to tell you differently. 3 Barastos, he's gonna be the one that summons any other worm from your deck that's not water, so not your Mare, but still any other worm, like another True King for a rank 9, or just another Yang Zing. And he's also got 3k defense for nice random booty every now and then, and yeah, he's a good card. Then of course, lastly, I still want to try to find in room for one of the Win True King, even though I don't really like it so much, but now that he's back, even at 1, we are running the one Lythosagym, or Lythosagym, however you want to pronounce it. If you do pop 2 Earth monsters, you get to, I'll just go ahead and read it because I'm so excited that he's back. But you can banish up to 3 monsters with different names from your opponent's extra deck. And that's the main thing that makes him so special and why he was banned for so long. He combos a lot better with dinos right now, especially before Master Rule 5, but I think he can take both decks to the next level when Master Rule 5 comes around and those links aren't running around restricting you no more, but you still want the one and only Lythosagym because he's too damn good. And then the last monster we run is the mentioned Mare. You're only going to summon him out the deck pretty much one way, which is most likely going to be with your Yazi. You do have one other unique way to potentially summon him, but it's very niche. But Mare can flood your board with tokens and just like things, use some stuff to link away really easy and just, you know, get some level manipulation out on the field if you really need the right amount of monsters for a synchro. So that's it for the Mare. Do not want to see that card ever in hand though, I will let you know that now. So now for the spells. We're running 2 Called by the Grave. As this deck progresses more, and probably when Master Rule 5 comes out, I'll bump this to 3 because it's so important, especially in a deck like this, that if they do hit that Jiaotu with an Ash or something, it kind of does dead you, because it's actually even worse if they Ghost Ogre it, because you may get the 2 monsters out the deck, but now your Jiaotu gets popped and it's not summoning another Yang Zing since you used the first effect. And so it's just really susceptible to hand traps. So you might want to bump the Called by the Grave to 3, but it's just right now for me in the testing phases, I like it at 2. 3 Yang Zing path, because even though you can only use once per turn, this shuffles 3 Yang Zing monsters from the grave into the deck and you draw 2, but it's still a Yang Zing card, so it's more fodder for Jiaotu if you do open up with it and you're forced to go first. I mean, you kind of do want to go first in this deck anyways, because you're really limited to the power plays and the recovery. You're mainly just trying to set up like a Locky Chao Feng or just a negate synchro or something. And Yang Zing path kind of helps you recycle a little bit, and it's more targets to discard. The next one breaks my heart, and I'll explain why I still do this. I do run 1 terraforming and 1 diagram, so I'll explain a couple things with this. Diagram is still too good to not run with the True Kings, even being at 1 and with terraforming at 1. Now, the unfortunate side with this deck is since it's so based on getting your combos off with your True Kings and your Yang Zings, I've tested multiple occasions to run an Oracle of Zephyra and a set rotation as well, just to get to the diagram faster, even when it was at 3 and all that. And it's just opening those cards sometimes just is so bad with this deck, since you have no other way to really discard cards that aren't Yang Zing and things or True Kings. So it's just really not worth the risk reward that it brings, and I'd rather rely on a Saki opening of terraforming or diagram or a top deck than have multiple cards that would dead my plays rather than just be another Yang Zing and a True King to go off for an effect. So that's why I still run them each at 1. 1 Dark Hole, like I said, I do like to go first. Not a big fan of Regeki in this deck because it's not so much in the OTK stages yet. It will be a lot more aggressive coming in April, but I like the Dark Hole because it can fix having the wrong Yang Zings in your hand opening up. Sometimes as really risky as it is, you might have to summon that Yang Zing, Dark Hole, and swap it for a Jiaotu, so then you can pitch the other Yang Zings in your hand and get going with at least something. And so that's why I like Dark Hole. 1 Instant Fusion, which also will probably bump up in the future, and so will the count of the Mud Dragons in the extra deck, most likely, because you know, right now, while that fusion is still going to take up a spot for anything else, this is more of an extender play than it is a starter. I mean, it can still be a starter if you open with the right True Kings, because this gives you at least 1 attribute of any that you need for that True King. So 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Monster Reborn, because it's Monster Reborn. Not much to be explained there. And then the last spell card I'm running that I'm also excited to test out, and in the very few amount of duels I've done with this deck so far, is Pot of Avarice. Being back at 1, it's just such a damn good card, especially with Yang Zings. For most of your plays, you're going to put a crap ton of monsters in the graveyard. And a lot of the times, like, if you can combo this off after a Yang Zing path, because you should have a lot of Yang Zings in the graveyard, particularly your Synchros too, like, you could just get even more advantage with this card. I see this card not being around for very long, to be honest, even at 1, so use it while you can. Lastly are our traps. These are subject to change too. I still feel a little weird running them at these counts because of Danglong still being banned. I'm a firm believer that Danglong's probably never going to get unbanned, being the fact that he's generic. If he was like Yang Zing restrictive, people would probably still find a way to abuse him, but he wouldn't have been so bad. And so your traps got to be a little low in this deck, even though Yang Zings offer a lot of good traps. But for now, I just run the 1 Zephyr Divine Strike and the 1 9 Pillars. The reason I run 1 of each is because they can both be live in different situations. The Zephyr Divine Strike would probably leave the deck first, because since this isn't so much of a pendulum variant and you're not searching so much, it is a lot less likely to go off than the 9 Pillars. And the 9 Pillars also has the advantage of being a Yang Zing card still. so it's also discardable for Jiaotu. So in hindsight, this will probably in this current testing stages become a second pillars just for now, but they're still both really nice, and they're both counter traps that can get you out of sticky situations. And then the last trap is the one True King's Return. You know, it's still limited to one. It's still a good card. I mean, it does suck in today's meta, especially with how fast decks are to have to set a trap. But when you're just summoning a bunch of True Kings and stuff to attack anyways, and the late game or the grind game or just getting a beat stick out, True King's Return can help in a number of ways, especially that random removal if they happen to choose to pop your back row, you know? So yeah, that's it for the main deck. Now we get to the extra deck, which is something I'm also equally excited to change drastically. To be honest, going into the new Master World, this deck probably will not contain many, if at all, any links. Probably would still like a couple of the link 4s that get you out of sticky situations, like Soyuja to fix the hands, Avramax to protect stuff, Borreload to steal a annoying can't be destroyed monster type deal, you know. So keep those in mind going forward, but for now, to keep this running until we get to that moment, I'm running one Almirage. You do have a lot of, you know, monsters that are weak in this deck, particularly a lot of your level 1s. I was running Link Karibo a lot because sometimes you just need the quick marker down here to get something out of there. But Almirage is better for two reasons. One, because after you get something down here where he's pointing like a Synchro or something, you don't have to link the Almirage away in order to get rid of him. You can just tribute him for his effect, and then on top of that, another very niche thing, but does come in handy. Another reason I'm disliking Link Karibo in a lot of my decks is, as it stands with Super Poly at 3, and almost everybody and their mama running the Starving Venom, Fusion Dragon, and the Super Polys, setting your opponent up with a free Dark Monster on your side of the field when you're not even a Dark dominant deck just seems a little pointless to me. So the Link Karibo had just become such an hindrance, and Almirage is just a better card in a lot of ways now. So one Almirage for that reason. One Cerberus because you just need a little bit of extra removal in this deck. Like I said, you're not really... Cerberus is a little bit more risky because... you know, he has no link markers pointing down, so if you get him in your top space, you're going to kind of want to play around your True Kings underneath him and just beating over a lot of stuff in the meantime. But he is nice removal for now, but we'll see how he lasts going forward. Then lastly, I only run Saryuja and Avramax for my last links, because like I said, I'm not really going into many links in this deck, to be honest, yet. It kind of sucks, but it's just the truth of it. You can run a bunch of more generic link 2s, like Beat Cop if you want. The BLS link is not a bad option for this deck right now. I unfortunately only have one copy and it's in a better deck of mine. But BLS link is another card I would recommend, probably even over the Cerberus, to be honest. Next, we get on to our Synchros. So starting with the Yang Zing Synchros, you want your one Yazi. Yazi is amazing for multiple reasons. He can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. He can pop a Yang Zing card and a card your opponent controls, including himself. And just like the Bostero summoning any worm, but non-restrictive to the attribute, Yazi summons any worm from the deck. So he's how you can summon your Mare quite easy from the deck. You would Synchro for him, pop him in something else, and then summon your Mare and start going off. 2 Baxia, because Baxia will shuffle target cards up to the number of different attribute Yang Zings you used for his Synchro summon, and then shuffle them into the deck. Then you can also pop a card you control and summon a level 4 or lower monster in your graveyard. And obviously if you pop a Yang Zing, you can combo off there with some other stuff. Last for the Yang Zings is the one Chaofeng. So Chaofeng has a lot of very unique effects that are really nice. The main thing is, while this Synchro Summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters, and doesn't say on the field, that have the same original attribute of the Yang Zings used for his material. So if you know what your opponent is playing an attribute heavy deck, you just make sure you use that attribute. You have him sitting on the field protected by potentially spells and traps and whatnot, and you're in a pretty good shape. Then on top of that, if he destroys a monster by battle, or I think it's just if a monster is destroyed by battle by Yang Zing you control while he's on the field, you could summon a monster with a worm monster with the same attribute from your deck. So in the rare event that you're playing Mermails and he kills one, then you can get your Mare out of the deck with him. But that's why it's not really worth mentioning for the sake of Mare. And then lastly, if he is sent to the graveyard, then he will, by battle or card effect, he will search a tuner from your deck to your hand. So that's also nice too. Still haven't found like a good generic tuner to throw in this deck for that purpose, because he's not something you're fully really going into that often. But he's still a really good card, and I just wish he came in ulti like the rest of them. Now to the generic Synchros, we have the one Herald of Arclight. Really easy to make in this deck. I love to make this with your Beyond, because having this and it can't be destroyed by battle. He's a free negate. If you tribute him, you could summon him back as long as you've Synchro summoned him once normally with your Baxia, because he's level 4 or lower. And he also makes it so any monster sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead while he's on the field. And that can mess up a lot of decks. The one Borreload Savage Dragon, because while we're still running links, even if you just make a link 2, any negates this deck can get on its board is a plus. So we're still running the Savage Dragon. He will go bye-bye when links are no longer a thing in this deck. One Trishula, because Trishula is an amazing card still, and another thing I forgot to mention, if you don't know, if you're using just Yang Zings, some of the Yang Zings have the effect to Synchro on your opponent's turn. So slamming them for a Trish when they're in the middle of trying to get a play set up, like they just sent something to a graveyard, search something that planned to help with that situation, you know, you could slam them with the Trish on their turn and really go off. Then we get to our Exceeds. We have 2 True King All Calamities. He's still a really good card, and even over a lot of your Synchros, if you're gonna sit with something on the top and not have Link up there first to get something down here, then True King Calamities is probably one of the best monsters you can. It's really easy to make in your deck, and he just shuts down all their monster effects of whatever attribute you declare, and their monsters become that attribute, so it's pretty OP. Then last is the one Phantom Fortress. This card is just very particular, but it's still a really nice effect. So once per turn, you can detach a material and use one of its 4 effects. So obviously you're only going to use 2, but 1 is to banish a card your opponent controls, 1 is banish one random card from their hand, 1 is banish a card from their graveyard, and 1 is banish the top card of their deck face up. So different decks that can come in handy in different ways. And then last card in the extra deck is the one Mud Dragon of the Swamp. He is so good, but right now, like I said, with the links and us not running many links in this deck, he is definitely just restricted to the 1 right now with the 1 instant fusion, but he can make himself any attribute that you need. So he's already water to help your Bastaros, and then you can change him to earth or fire to help the Lythosagym or the Agnimazud if you need to get the effect that requires you popping both monsters of the same attribute. Alright, I hope you enjoyed another mediocre deck profile from your best worst duelists out there on YouTube. We love bringing you guys rogue variants of decks and trying to keep our little rogue decks alive. I'm very excited for the future of Master Rule 5. Please like, comment, subscribe, and more importantly, in the comment section below, let us know what deck profiles you've seen of ours that you want us to get ready for Master Rule 5. Let us know what you're going to be running in Master Rule 5, what you think this Yang Zing deck could do, and what you're doing for your Yang Zings. Is that good?
Try one more.
Same thing, or?
Oh, yeah.
No,
You should do that first. You should be like, and then be like.
Here's some True King Yang Zings.
Alright, good.
That was magnificent.
Cut the lights, we're good. We can go home now.
Can you sign my iPhone after this?
Of course,
Like
as long as I can do it with my... Alright.
But then I get to sign the inside of your mouth with mine. This is all going in the video, by the way. I feel bad for her. I have to edit this.